The silence is wrong. It is a thick, heavy blanket where the rustle of prey and the chatter of birds ought to be. The hunter, a male Homo habilis, crouches lower, his grip tightening on the heavy, fist-sized stone in his hand. His knuckles are scarred, his brow low and heavy, but his eyes are sharp, intelligent, and filled with a deep and gnawing confusion. For 3 days, his party has moved through their ancestral lands, a forest of pine and hardy birch that has fed their people for generations. They have found nothing, no tracks, no droppings, no living thing larger than a shrew. The forest itself feels brittle, the air carrying a bone-deep chill that has nothing to do with the season. He signals to the others with a subtle dip of his head. The hunt is over. They rise, a small band of ghosts in a dying wood, and begin the long walk back to their shelter. Their failure is a heavy weight, a physical ache that adds to the hunger cramping their bellies. This is a new and terrifying chapter in the long saga of prehistoric life, a struggle not against a predator or a rival, but against a world that is quietly, methodically turning to stone. At the clan's shelter, a smoke-stained overhang of rock. The mood is grim. The return of the empty-handed hunters confirms a fear that has been growing for weeks. An old woman, the clan's matriarch in memory, shivers by the fire, though it is not from the cold alone. She is the living chronicle of their hominid history, her mind a map of seasons and cycles. She has never known a cold like this, a cold that lingers into the bright sun of midday, a cold that seems to radiate not from the sky, but from the land itself. The wind that whispers down from the high northern ridges no longer carries the scent of pine and wet earth. It smells of ice and stone and an immense, profound emptiness. It is a wind that has no memory of the sun. The next day, the lead hunter makes a decision. They will go north, toward the mountains, toward the source of the cold. They must understand what is happening to their world. 3 of them set out at dawn. As they travel, the signs of the world's sickness become more pronounced. The forest thins, the trees growing stunted and twisted, their bark split by the relentless cold. They pass a frozen stream, its surface a sheet of milky ice, a sight they have only ever seen for a few weeks in the deepest part of winter. Never like this. Then they hear the sound. It is a low, constant grinding, a sound so deep it seems to be the groan of the world's bones. They break through the last line of dying trees and stop, frozen in a state of prime alarmed terror that has no name. Before them, the world ends. Thy wool, impossibly high and blindingly white, fills the horizon. It is a cliff made not of rock, but of ice, its face a fractured, glittering landscape of blues and whites that seems to breathe, to move. As they watch, a section of the cliff face the size of a great tree calves off, falling with a thunderous roar that shakes the ground beneath their feet. This is the great drama of the Pleistocene epoch made manifest. It is a glacier, a river of ice, and it is advancing. They can see where it has passed. A landscape's cowered clean, the forest scraped away, the very earth plowed into grotesque ridges. The white wall is eating their world. The hunter finally understands. It is not a base they can fight or a spirit they can appease. It is a force of nature, indifferent, inexorable, and it is coming for them. He turns, his face a mask of grim knowledge, and begins the journey back to the clan. He has no food to bring them, only a truth that is colder than any winter. The truth settles over the clan like a shroud of frost. The wall that eats the forest. The name comes from the matriarch, a whispered phrase that gives shape to their terror. There is no debate. To stay is to be swallowed, to starve in and scoured of life. They must leave. The decision is a silent one, a consensus born of a shared and a more understanding of the absolute. The act of leaving, however, is a slow, heartbreaking process of triage. They are Homo habilis, the toolmakers, and their shelter is a repository of their collective knowledge. They cannot take everything. The lead hunter oversees the selection. The heavy old Owen choppers. Stones painstakingly flaked to create a brutal, efficient edge, are essential. So are the sharpest flints for butchery, and the precious, fire-blackened hearthstones that hold the memory of warmth, but the larger grinding stones for crushing tough roots. The collection of fossil shells a child treasured, the smooth, comfortable sleeping hides worn thin by generations of use, all must be left behind. Each discarded object is a small death, a severing of a tie to the only home they have ever known. They are paring themselves down to the raw elements of survival. It is a hard choice that defines the very nature of a refugee. Survival is not what you have, but what you can carry. Their migration is a portrait of raw suffering. They move south, away from the grinding ice, into an unfamiliar landscape. This is the pre-glacier zone, a world defined by the glacier's proximity. The ground is frozen solid, a treacherous, uneven surface of frosty dirt that turns ankles and shatters composure. The wind is a constant, physical assault, a razor that flays the skin and steals the breath. The very act of walking becomes a monumental effort of will. Hunger is no longer innate. It is a predator that stalks them, step by agonizing step. The weak grow weaker. An old male, his joints swollen and stiff, begins to lag behind. At first, his son stays with him, offering a supporting shoulder, a quiet act of altruism that is the bedrock of their community. But the clan cannot slow down to stop his to freeze. The son must make an impossible choice, or the future of his own children who are shivering up ahead. In a moment of silence, wrench and agony, he rejoins the main group, leaving the old man to sit by the side of the trail, alone. Still figure who does not watch them go. There is no cruelty in the act, only the brutal, unforgiving mathematics of survival. The social bonds, forged in times of plenty, begin to fray under the relentless pressure. A squabble over a frozen grub, a hoarded piece of dried fungus. These small conflicts threaten to erupt into open violence. It is the matriarch who holds them together. She is too weak to hunt, too old to carry a heavy load, but her value is immeasurable. At night, when they huddle together for warmth behind a hastily built windbreak, she is the one who directs the sharing of the pathetic scraps of food. She is the one who presses the shivering children against the bodies of the strongest males. Her authority, her foresight in the careful rationing of their dwindling resources and their even more precious morale, is the invisible thread that keeps the clan from disintegrating into a mob of desperate individuals. She is leading them through the Ice Age not with a spear, but with the sheer force of her will, a quiet, flickering flame of humanity against the encroaching, absolute cold. They are a ragged line of skeletons draped in hide, more dead than alive. The Great Migration has culled their numbers by a third. The survivors are held together by nothing more than the grim, forward momentum of instinct. They walk with their heads down, their eyes fixed on the frozen ground, no longer looking at the horizon because the horizon has never offered them anything but more ice and more wind. The hunter who first saw the glacier now leads them, not through skill, but because he is simply the last one strong enough to break the trail. It is he who smells it first, a strange scent on the ever-present, sterile wind. It is the smell of damp earth, of sulfur, of life. He stops, lifting his head for the first time in days. The others, sensing the change, halt behind him, a chain reaction of flickering hope. He leads them over a low, snow-dusted ridge, and they see it below, a valley, but not a frozen one. It is a slash of impossible green and brown in the vast, unending white of the glaciation. Steam rises from the valley floor in soft, white plumes, twisting in the cold air. The hunter starts down the treacherous slope, half sliding, half falling in his haste. The clan follows, their exhaustion forgotten, replaced by a desperate, animal urgency. As they descend, the air grows warmer, the frozen ground giving way to soft, damp mud. The scent of life is intoxicating. This is a place of magic, a geological anomaly. The valley is alive because of geothermal activity deep within the earth. A pocket of volcanic warmth that holds the Ice Age at bay. Small, steaming pools of water bubble at the base of the rocks. Hardy, Unfamiliar ferns grow in lush patches near the vents. It is not their old home. It is a strange, alien world. But it is raw, and it is alive. They find the tracks of small, rodent-like creatures, and the burrows of some larger animal. There are tough, edible-looking mosses clinging to the warm rocks. It is an order, albeit a meager and unfamiliar one. For the first time in what seems like a lifetime, they have found a place where they might stop walking. The discovery does not bring celebration, only a profound, communal exhaustion. They collapse near a steaming vent, the radiant heat a blessing on their frost-bitten limbs. But even in their weariness, the instincts of survival, honed by their terrible journey, take over. The women, guided by the matriarch, immediately begin to investigate the strange ferns, crushing the leaves, smelling them, cautiously tasting them for poison. The men, using their old owen choppers, begin to dig at the entrance to one of the larger burrows, their movements slow but deliberate. They are a machine that has almost broken down, but whose parts still remember how to work together. This is the ultimate test of their intelligence and their community, not just to endure the crisis, but to adapt to the new world it has created. That night, huddled together in the miraculous warmth of the earth itself, they feast on a single, tough, mole-like creature. It is the most exquisite meal they have ever eaten. They are not safe. They are simply in a new place, with new rules and new dangers. But they are together, and for the first time since the white wall appeared, as they fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, they are warm. The great glaciers of the Pleistocene were the architects of the modern world, carving mountains and gouging valleys with an artist's indifferent power. For the small bands of early humans who lived in their shadow, they were an apocalypse, an unstoppable force that demanded an evolutionary response. The migration of this small clan of Homo habilis is a microcosm of a much larger story, the story of how our lineage survived the ice ages. They survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they were the most adaptable. They demonstrated a profound intelligence, not just in their tools, but in their social organization, their willingness to make horrific choices for the good of the group, and their capacity to abandon a world that was gone and learn the rules of a new one. This valley of borrowed warmth was a cradle, a temporary refuge that allowed a single spark of hominid life to endure. Every city we build, every field we plant, is a testament to that same desperate, intelligent drive to find a warm place in a cold universe, to carve out a small valley of our own against the relentless, grinding ice of entropy. Survival is not the act of fighting the storm, but of finding the one quiet place in its eye. But what if the storm is in your own mind?